Parents threw me out at 15 for wasting water. Now I own the flow, literally. My name's Mia Thompson, and when I was 15, in the summer of 2015, I got kicked out of my house in Boise, Idaho for leaving the kitchen faucet dripping. It sounds like a bad joke, but it happened. It was August, the kind of heat where the air feels like a blanket you can't shake off. And our little ranch-style house on Vista Avenue had no AC, just a box fan humming in the living room. I was brushing my teeth at midnight, half asleep, my favorite purple scrunchie holding back my hair, when I forgot to turn the faucet off completely. A tiny drip, maybe a teaspoon an hour, but you'd think I'd flooded the Snake River the way my parents reacted. My dad stormed into the kitchen, his Boise State baseball cap crooked from sleep, face red as the beets Mom grew in her backyard garden. "Mia, water isn't free," he shouted, pointing at the sink like it was evidence in a crime scene. The water bill was maybe $50 a month, but they were always stressed about money since Dad's construction job slowed after the recession. Mom stood behind him, arms crossed, her nightgown wrinkled, adding, "If you want to waste water, you can pay the bill yourself." I stood there, toothpaste dripping down my chin, feeling a mix of shame and confusion, like I'd failed some test I didn't know I was taking. I didn't argue. I wanted to, but their voices had that edge, the kind that said this wasn't just about water. It was about me being a burden. They called it tough love, said it would teach me responsibility. By 1 a.m, I was stuffing a backpack with 3 T-shirts, a pair of jeans, and my dead phone, its cracked screen reflecting the dim kitchen light. Dad pointed to the front door, the one with the peeling green paint we never fixed, and said, "Out." Mom's eyes softened for a second like she might cry, but she still said, "You'll understand one day, Mia. This is for your own good." I walked out in flip-flops and a tank top, the Boise night air hot against my skin, feeling like I'd been erased from my own life. All over a drip. I ended up crashing in my friend Sarah's garage in Meridian, a quiet suburb about 10 miles west of Boise, where the streets are lined with new developments and everyone seems to have a pickup truck in the driveway. Sarah's house was a split level with a big backyard, but the garage was cluttered with old snowboards from her family's McCall ski trips and a broken mini fridge that hummed like it was trying to tell secrets. Her parents didn't notice me for the first 3 days. I snuck in after dark and slept on a camping cot, using a rolled-up beach towel as a pillow. Sarah's labradoodle, Muffin, sniffed me once and then curled up nearby like he felt sorry for me. I remember feeling grateful for the company, but also a little jealous of how easy his life seemed. By day, I wandered around Boise's North End, with its tree-lined streets and coffee shops full of people in hiking gear, pretending I had errands to run. I showered at the YMCA on State Street, a big brick building with echoing hallways and free soap dispensers, using their teen access program to avoid paying the $20 a month. For food, I bought granola bars from a gas station on Chinden Boulevard, about $1 each, or sometimes a cheap taco from Fiesta Guadalajara, $2 or $3 for something warm. I tried not to cry in public, like in Julia Davis Park by the Boise River, where families picnicked and threw frisbees. Some days, I felt tough, like I was proving I could handle anything, but other times I was just scared and small, wondering if my parents even missed me. After a week, Sarah's mom found me sneaking a yogurt from their garage fridge. She was in her yoga pants, hair in a messy bun, and she just stood there for a second before saying, "Mia, honey, why didn't you tell us?" I shrugged, my face burning with embarrassment, but she didn't yell. She let me stay, gave me a real blanket that smelled like laundry detergent, and I moved my spot to a sleeping bag by the water heater. That's when I started searching on my phone, which I charged at the library downtown, for jobs a 15-year-old could do in Boise. Options were limited, but I found dog-walking gigs in the suburbs, paying $10 an hour for strolling with labs and Goldens through neighborhoods with mountain views, and a dishwasher job at a diner on Fairview Avenue, a busy strip with strip malls and traffic. The diner was an old-school place with vinyl booths and a jukebox playing country tunes, and they paid $9 an hour, which was the minimum wage, plus a bit from tips shared among the staff. I worked 20 hours a week there, scrubbing plates in the steamy back kitchen and another 15 walking dogs, bringing in about $400 a month after bus passes and food. It was exhausting. My hands always pruny from the water. But for the first time, I felt a spark of pride mixed with resentment toward my parents. They hadn't called once, not even to check if I was safe. It hurt, but it also made me determined not to go back. One night, after a long shift at the diner where the grease from the grill stuck to my skin and the smell of fries lingered in my hair, I noticed the garage sink was dripping worse than the one that got me kicked out. Sarah's dad had been complaining about it for weeks, saying he'd call a plumber but never getting around to it, probably because money was tight for them too with his job at the lumber yard. The garage was humid, the concrete floor cool under my feet, and I sat there on an old stool, feeling frustrated and curious at the same time. I'd watched a YouTube video on my phone earlier that day, something like, "Fix your pipes without losing your mind," just out of boredom while on the bus. I didn't know what I was doing, but I figured I'd already lost my home. What was one more mess? I grabbed a butter knife from the house as a makeshift wrench and twisted a fitting under the sink. It groaned a bit. Water sputtered out, and then it stopped leaking. Sarah's dad walked in later, saw the dry floor, and handed me a root beer from the fridge, his eyes wide. "You fixed it, kid?" he asked, and I nodded, a rush of surprise and quiet joy washing over me, though part of me wondered if it was just luck. That moment stuck with me. I liked the feeling of making something work again, especially things people had given up on, like that old sink or maybe even myself. I started staying up late, my phone propped on a box in the garage, binging plumbing tutorials under the fluorescent light that buzzed overhead. I dove into online forums like Pipe Dreams R Us and Plum Nation, reading posts from folks in places like Nampa or Caldwell sharing tips on valves and fittings. It felt nerdy, but also empowering, like I was learning a secret language. With my first paycheck from the diner, about $180 after taxes, I bought a basic wrench set for $10 from a pawn shop on Overland Road, a cluttered store with guitars hanging on the walls, and a musty smell. I saved the rest for food and a bus pass, feeling responsible but also a bit lonely, wishing I had someone to share the excitement with. I began practicing around the neighborhood, offering to fix faucets or sprinklers for free. Meridian's yards were full of those automatic sprinkler systems that always seemed to leak in the dry Idaho summers, and people were happy for the help. One neighbor paid me $5 cash and gave me homemade tamales, which I ate sitting on the curb, feeling full and capable for once. By 16 in 2016, I put up an ad on Craigslist. Teen plumber in Boise. Cheap, quick, won't flood your house. It was free to post, and my first real job came from Mrs. Carter in Eagle, a nearby town with fancy homes along the Boise River. Her kitchen sink was clogged, the counter cluttered with dishes, and I fixed it in an hour for $50 cash, which was low compared to what pros charge but fair for a kid like me. She added a glass of lemonade, and I walked away feeling like I'd won something, though doubt crept in later. Was I really good at this? Or just desperate? To learn more, I snuck into plumbing workshops at Boise State University, sitting in the back of a classroom in the engineering building, with its whiteboards full of diagrams and the smell of coffee from the professor's mugs. A guy named Hank, the professor with a thick beard and a voice like gravel, noticed me, but let me stay if I kept quiet. He tossed me an old manual one day saying, "Fix the lab's water heater without breaking it, and I'll give you the pipe schematics." I did it, twice, my hands shaking the first time but steady the second. At 16, I registered as an apprentice through the Idaho Division of Occupational and Professional Licenses, paying the $50 fee from my savings, and got sponsored by a neighbor who was a licensed plumber. It meant I had to log 8,000 hours of work and 576 hours of classes over 4 years, which felt overwhelming, but doable. By 2019, at 19, I took the journeyman exam, paying the $75 fee from job money I'd tucked away, about $2,500 a year after living expenses. I borrowed Sarah's blazer for the testing center in Meridian, a plain office building off the highway, and passed. I celebrated with a burger at Big Bun Drive-In, $10 well spent, feeling proud but also a nagging emptiness. My parents still hadn't reached out, and part of me wondered if they'd be impressed or just relieved I wasn't their problem anymore. By 2019, after passing my journeyman exam, I decided to turn my plumbing work into a real business. I called it Mia's Flow Fix, and I set it up as a sole proprietorship, which was straightforward in Idaho, just registering with the Division of Occupational and Professional Licenses for a contractor license, paying the $147 initial fee from my savings. I didn't need a lawyer or anything complicated at first. It was just me, officially, fixing pipes. I operated out of Sarah's garage in Meridian, which had become like a second home, with its concrete floor stained from oil spills and shelves full of her dad's tools. I'd ride my old bike to jobs, strapping my wrench set and a few fittings to the back with bungee cords, pedaling along the Boise Greenbelt Trail where cyclists and joggers passed by the river. I kept juggling the diner job for steady income, but plumbing calls started coming in more regularly, thanks to word of mouth from neighbors and that Craigslist ad. Residential jobs paid $100 to $200 each, like unclogging a faucet in a cozy bungalow in Boise's North End or repairing a sprinkler head in a Meridian backyard. Commercial ones were bigger, $500 to $1,000, such as fixing the sinks at a coffee shop on 8th Street downtown, where the air smelled like fresh roasted beans, and locals chatted about Broncos games. Yelp reviews helped a lot. People left comments like, "Reliable teen who saved my sink," and that built trust in a town where everyone knows someone. I was stretched thin, though, washing dishes in the diner's hot kitchen and then rushing to a plumbing gig, my hands raw from soap and water. Some days I felt energized, like I was building something solid, but others I was just tired and questioned if it was worth it. That's when I knew I needed help. I hired 2 people who reminded me of myself, folks who'd been overlooked. First was Jay, a quiet guy I met at the diner who'd learned about pipes while in juvie and had an uncanny knack for valves. He was precise, with tattoos peeking from his sleeves, and he only swore when a fitting wouldn't budge. Then came Tasha, strong and straightforward, who could rewire a water pump one-handed while munching on a granola bar. She'd grown up in foster care and had that fire in her eyes, like she was proving something to the world. We started as a team of 3, working from a borrowed shed in Garden City, a gritty area near the Boise River with warehouses and auto shops. The shed was basic, metal walls echoing our voices, a workbench cluttered with pipes and tools, but it felt like ours. I bought matching hoodies from a thrift store on State Street for $5 each and ironed on our logo, a simple faucet with sunglasses that Sarah drew. It peeled a bit in the wash, but we wore them like badges. For the first year, our income was about $50,000 gross. After startup costs like tools and the license, around $10,000 total, which left $30,000 net to split. We paid ourselves $15 an hour, which was better than minimum wage and helped attract people who needed stability. Then we got the van in late 2019, a rusty 2005 Ford I found on Craigslist for $4,900. A good deal for its mileage, though it had a dent on the side and smelled like old carpet. I'd saved $3,000 from team jobs over 3 months, netting about $1,000 each after taxes and expenses, and borrowed the rest from Sarah's dad, paying him back gradually without interest. Jay painted it blue in the shed, and we added our logo with stickers that wouldn't stay straight. Driving it along Interstate 84 to jobs in Eagle or Nampa felt like freedom, though the engine rattled on hills. We weren't just fixing pipes anymore, we were fixing ourselves, tightening bolts in leaky homes while sharing stories over gas station coffee. Some days I felt invincible, but others, I was missed having a family to tell about it. That ache mixing with my growing confidence. In 2020, things started to pick up when a reporter from KIV-TV, the local ABC affiliate in Boise, called about doing a feature on us. They'd heard through the grapevine Mrs. Carter from Eagle had told her book club, and someone from a church group in Meridian mentioned our work on a leaky fountain at Ann Morrison Park, a big green space downtown where people walk dogs and have barbecues by the river. The park's fountain was one of our jobs, spraying water unevenly because of a clogged line, and we fixed it for the city at a discounted rate to build goodwill. The reporter came to the shed in Garden City, filming us as we sorted tools on the workbench, the metal walls reflecting the camera lights. The segment aired that Friday night right after the weather report with the headline, "From Sink to Success, Boise Teens Build Plumbing Empire." They showed clips of me explaining a pipe fitting, Jay tightening a valve, and Tasha lifting a pump like it was nothing. My phone started ringing off the hook after that. New jobs from all over, like a bakery in Meridian that smelled like cinnamon rolls and needed their drains cleared. Sarah texted me right away, "You're on TV, girl!" And Tasha high-fived me so hard I almost dropped a wrench in the shed. It felt good, a mix of excitement and disbelief, like maybe all the hard work was paying off. But I also felt a twinge of anxiety, wondering if we could handle the extra work. Yelp reviews poured in, 5 stars from strangers who said things like, "Local heroes who fixed our flood." The story even trended a bit in local Facebook groups where people shared it with comments about supporting small businesses in Idaho. My parents stayed silent for 2 years after I left, no calls or messages, which left me with this hollow feeling, part anger, part sadness that they could just move on. But after the TV clip, Mom messaged me on Facebook, her profile picture still the family photo from before everything, saying, "So proud of you, Mia. We always knew you'd shine. Let's reconnect." It was the first contact in ages, and it stirred up old hurt, making me wonder if they really meant it or if it was just because others were noticing. Dad left a voicemail a day later, his voice calm but practiced. "Mia, great job on the news. Let's grab dinner, my treat. Maybe at that Italian place on Capitol Boulevard." It would be about $50 for a meal, ironic given the water bill fight, but I didn't reply. Part of me wanted to hear their side, but the resentment won out. I focused on the business instead, feeling a quiet resolve amid the buzz. In 2021, the Boise Chamber of Commerce invited me to speak on a panel at the Boise Center, a modern convention building downtown with high ceilings and views of the foothills. It was for young entrepreneurs, the kind of event where local business owners network over coffee and pastries in a big conference room. I was surprised to get the invite, but it felt like recognition, though I worried about what to say. 2 days before, an email came with the guest list, and there were my parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, listed as special guests, and my supporters. They hadn't asked me. They just RSVP'd, probably thinking it was a way to show up without confronting the past directly. Jay saw my face when I read it in the shed, tools scattered on the workbench, and said, "Time to bring the receipts, boss." I nodded, not feeling angry exactly, but prepared, like I needed to set the record straight for my own peace. I gathered some old papers into a folder. Pay stubs from the diner showing $9 an hour for 20 hours a week. The $75 receipt for my journeyman exam paid with tips I'd saved in a jar under the cot. And the Craigslist printout for the van at $4,900, which we'd bought after 3 months of scraping together about $1,000 each net from jobs. I labeled it proof I did it alone, feeling a bit defensive but also justified. At the event, I wore my cleanest hoodie and jeans, pressed the night before on Sarah's ironing board, and walked into the room full of folding chairs and a stage with a simple podium. The crowd was small-town Boise, old teachers in cardigans, clients in button-ups, even the diner manager who nodded at me. My parents sat in the front row, Mom in pearls that looked like the ones she wore to church, Dad in khakis, both smiling stiffly, like they were proud but unsure. Dad had always been the strict one, pushing tough love, because his own parents had been hard on him, thinking it built character, though I could see now it came from his fears about money and failure. Mom was softer, but she went along with it, maybe because she didn't know how else to handle things when bills piled up. When I took the mic, the room quiet, I said, "Hi, I'm Mia, founder of Mia's Flow Fix. I fix pipes. I also used to sleep in a garage shed." A few chuckles rippled through, but I kept going, my voice steady though my stomach twisted. I built this with a $10 wrench and YouTube videos. Some people thought I'd fail. Some made sure I had nowhere to start. Dad's smile faltered a little, and Mom blinked hard. I pulled out the folder. "This is a pay stub from dishwashing, $9 an hour. This receipt is for my exam fee, $75 from tips. And this is the ad for our van, $4,900, bought after splitting costs with my team." Someone in the back murmured approval. My parents are here as supporters, which is interesting because at 15, they kicked me out for leaving a faucet dripping. There were gasps, real ones, and the room went quiet. I didn't look at them directly, just at the audience, feeling a surge of relief mixed with guilt for airing it out. Success isn't always about having cheerleaders. Sometimes it's just you, a wrench, and deciding to keep going. The applause was loud. A guy in the back even whistled, and I stepped off the stage, my legs a bit shaky. Mom stood to meet me by the coffee table, lips pursed. "Mia, can we talk?" Dad hovered behind, his face a mix of regret and defensiveness, like he wanted to explain but knew it wouldn't help. I walked past slowly, saying, "Water's expensive." It wasn't mean, just true to how I felt. They went into full mode after that. Missed calls from Dad, a long email from Mom titled "Family Matters," even a text from my cousin Emma saying the family was buzzing and Grandma wanted the link. I didn't reply, feeling empowered, but also a quiet sadness that it had come to this. Later, they showed up at the shed one afternoon, knocking on the metal door while Jay and Tasha were inside sorting fittings. Mom held a grocery bag, Dad with his tight-lipped smile from parent-teacher nights. The shed smelled like metal and coffee from our pot. They sat at the fold-out table we used for lunch, muffins circling them before lying down with a sigh. Mom unpacked a store-bought pie, $5 worth, a childhood photo of me with pigtails and my old teddy bear, fuzzy and faded. "Thought you'd want this back," she said softly. I pointed to Muffin's bed. "I've got one." Dad cleared his throat. "We messed up, Mia. Parenting's hard. We were stressed. Bills, you know." His voice cracked a bit, showing the weight he carried from his own rough upbringing. I nodded. "I know now, because I paid mine." I opened the folder between us. Stubs, receipts, the van ad. "Why keep this?" Mom asked, her eyes misty. "Because I knew one day you'd try to take credit." Dad winced. Mom looked down. "We're not asking for anything," she said, but then added, "We didn't know you'd build all this." It was almost believable, their pride mixed with regret, but it came too late. "You threw me out like trash," I said, "and now that I'm something, you want back in?" Dad exhaled. "We want a second chance." I wanted to give it. Part of me did, but I said, I needed a first one. They left the pie, walked out without slamming the door, and I sat there scratching Muffin's ears, feeling resolved but a little empty too. The pie was stale. A few days after the panel, Mom posted on Facebook a blurry photo of me on stage, mid-speech, probably taken from her phone in the front row. The caption was in that flowery font she liked, "Proud of our Mia. From humble beginnings to business leader. We always believed in you. Family first. Support matters." The comments rolled in from her church friends, saying things like, "You raised her right," and "What a testimony," even one asking if she offered parenting classes. I nearly choked on my lunch in the shed, a sandwich from the gas station down the road, feeling a wave of frustration, but also a sad amusement at how she'd twisted it. I didn't want to scream or ignore it. I just wanted the truth out there. That night, I posted my own collage on Facebook, a photo of the garage floor where I'd slept, my first job schedule taped to the mini fridge, the receipt folder open, and the van with its dent. The caption read, "I built this with diner tips, YouTube tutorials, and a $10 wrench. No handouts, no safety nets. If you weren't there when I had nothing, don't rewrite the story now that I have something. Flow not gifted." Within an hour, it had 5,000 shares, mostly from locals and plumbing forums. Comments were heated. Half the town applauded, strangers saying, "You're an inspiration." One guy adding, "This made me call my mom and talk it out." The other half defended family, but my cousin Emma texted, "Well, that escalated. Families shook. Aunt Mary's praying." Mom sent a long text, paragraphs about misunderstandings and public shaming. Her voice in my head wobbly like when she tried to seem emotional. Dad called, but I didn't answer. Jay printed my post and pinned it next to the whiteboard in the shed, calling it Icon Behavior, and Tasha nodded. Certified honest. I didn't feel victorious, just relieved to have the story unedited. No one twisting facts for brunch conversations. It was ugly and real. Mine. Later that week, the director of the Boise Community Center called, asking me to keynote their Rise Up Youth event in a modest hall with wooden floors and posters of local success stories on the walls. I said yes, bringing my laminated folder with the receipts and screenshots of Mom's post next to mine. On stage, under the bright lights, I said, "I got kicked out at 15 for a dripping faucet. I worked, I failed, I fixed pipes. Now I own the flow." The crowd, mostly kids and mentors, clapped, and it felt genuine, though I wondered if my words really helped. We partnered with a Boise nonprofit for displaced youth, leasing a warehouse in Nampa, about 20 miles west, for $2,200 a month, 2,000 square feet with peeling paint and a smell like old tires, funded by grants of $10,000 and our business revenue, now around $100,000 a year. Jay painted the inside blue and silver. Tasha set up a training room with workbenches and diagrams on a whiteboard wall. We called it the pipeline. A bit corny but fitting. Kids came in, most like us, kicked out or ignored. One, Carlos, 16, from Nampa, living in his cousin's basement, broke 3 tools his first week and hid in the supply closet teary-eyed. Now he installs sprinkler systems faster than most pros, grinning as he tightens fittings. We've got 28 names on the whiteboard, each a kid who finished training and got a job, learning not just tools, but how to show up and laugh when the world says plumbing isn't a future. Last month, the local business council gave us a $50,000 contract to upgrade pipes in Boise's City Hall, a historic building downtown with creaky floors, the kind of job Dad once dreamed of in his construction days. I signed it with Jay and Tasha beside me, took a selfie, and posted with, "They said I'd regret plumbing." They forgot I keep receipts. The mayor's office shared it. At Boise's annual business gala in a ballroom with chandeliers and views of the city lights, I was the keynote in a fitted blazer and clean boots, my name tag reading, "Mia Thompson, founder." My parents were in the back. I nodded once, no smile. On stage, I said, "At 15, I was kicked out for wasting water. I worked, I failed, I fixed things, and now I own the flow, literally." I dropped the mic gently and walked off, not looking back, feeling a deep peace mixed with a faint echo of what might have been.